from the Morphology Podcast and Andrea Parrott from Parrot Talk are joined by a wide variety of guests each week that delve into the social side of cycling. With tales from RAGBRAI Nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now, here are your hosts, Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
And that's me.
Hello, listeners. This is Murph, and it's just me this week. Hi. Well, we made it to mid-October, and I would love to know who out there is still riding bikes. Well, I definitely am, although not near as many miles as June, July, or August. For example, I have an event this evening, and as soon as that sun goes down, I am definitely going to want some extra layers while on my bike. With that said, it's a beautiful time to ride here in Iowa with the leaves changing colors and falling on the ground. I just love the crunching sound of those leaves. So I know some people keep riding, and some people hang up their bike after RAGBRAI. So I wanted to do an episode on off-season cycling. I asked Scott Sumpter from BIKEIOWA to come on to talk about what he does as far as cycling goes when it comes to off-season. And he laughed when I said off-season because Scott rides year-round. For those who don't know Scott, he runs a really cool website called BIKEIOWA. It's a one-stop shop for all things related to biking in Iowa. Events, news, his own merchandise, pretty much anything you'd want to know bike-related. So here's my interview with Scott. Well, as promised, we've got Mr. Scott Sumpter on the podcast today. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Murph. How's it going?
Oh, it's great. It's great. And before we push record, you and I were chatting, and you're on your way to yet another bicycle adventure. Where are you off to this time?
We are. It's a brand new cyclocross race this year. It's called Cross is Coming, which is kind of a popular hashtag before cyclocross gets here. But this is taking place out at a private farm. It's a public race, but private farm just about 4.5 miles outside of Cumming. So they called it Cross is Coming, and it's all the Watts guys, which is partially owned by Chain and Spoke out on Ingersoll in Des Moines, and Team Presto. So those two teams went together to create a race. And it's the first night cyclocross race Iowa's had on their docket for quite a few years.
Oh, wow. And that's one of my questions coming up is for you to kind of define cyclocross, because in my head, when you say that this event's taking place on someone's private land, I know there's no way that there's already a course, designed years back. So put that in the back of your head that I'm going to ask you exactly what it's all about.
All right.
Okay. But for now, remind the listeners, I kind of gave a little bio on who you are and what BIKEIOWA is, but in your own words, tell the listeners where you live and what the cycling culture is like there.
Yeah, so I live outside of Ankeny, which for me to get downtown, it's all the way to Neil Smith Road, downtown Des Moines. It's roughly 12 miles,
nice.
Pretty much all on trail. So it's a pretty easy commute. So I'm not that far out of the Des Moines Metro, but close enough to get there, anytime during the week, school nights and stuff like that. And then also far enough where I can head out to Big Creek and High Trestle Trail and, all sorts of gravel. I think gravel is about 7 miles now for me. When I first moved here about 20 years ago, it was like 4 miles away. Now with urban sprawl and everything, we're losing a little bit of gravel in the town, but it takes me a little longer to get out to gravel. But yeah, it's Ankeny, great spot for cycling. I mean, not only I'm close to the Sycamore mountain bike trails, High Trestle, Chautauqua, Gailey Wilson, all the Ankeny internal trails. Like I say, gravel. It's a pretty cool spot. And then plus with the new connector for the High Trestle to Raccoon, not that far away from that either. Boughton's a good spot now to go to.
Yeah, I was just there a couple weeks ago, and back in the day, I guess just this past year, but Burr Ride, you could take a little offshoot and end up in that Boughton. I can't recall the name of the bar, but man, now it's right on the trail.
Yeah, it's right there, and right across the street is that new Paul Black Memorial Plaza, which is kind of cool. So it's just it's growing. Then there's an RV park less than 2 miles away now, brand new, like 200 and some spots. So good for camping on the trail. It's kind of a not that well known yet, but they're just getting it finished.
That's great. That's great. So this would probably be hard to answer because you do have so many options, right? Almost in your backyard. But do you have a favorite place to ride?
If it's, and I like to ride out of my door, right? I mean, that's probably my favorite. I think the Neil Smith Trail, and I've always loved the Neil Smith Trail. Just, it's shaded, it's curvy, it's got some ups and downs to it, and it's pretty underutilized. It's been bumpy for years, and earlier this spring, the county went through and they ground down some of the bumps, and they're redoing pieces of it, but it's way smoother. But I also usually ride a fatter tired bike with lower tire pressure and a nice Selly Anatomica seat, so the bumps don't really bother me. I just like that trail. I'm also close to the Saylorville shoreline, and most of the time that's rideable on fat bike. It's just a unique spot to ride. It's 14 miles around Saylorville Lake, and that's a pretty adventure ride. And then also the Sycamore mountain bike trails are close to me, about 12 to 14 miles of trails there. I'm within 3 miles of that trailhead. So what was it, last Thursday? I rode 100 miles on that 7-mile loop as part of a September challenge we got going here in Des Moines. So that's those are my 3 or 4 different spots I like to go.
Yeah, those are great spots. And I agree with you. I love to be able to just leave from my front door on my bike and go somewhere. And here in Cedar Rapids, I've got the Cedar Valley Nature Trail, which is amazing. And it's about, not even a quarter of a mile from where I live. And you can go north or south for miles and miles and miles. It's, beautiful and paved. But also within, I think it's maybe 2.5 miles, I can hit what's called the Sac and Fox Trail, which has, multi-use trail with a little bit of limestone trail, single track, all of that good stuff. But there's nothing better than heading to the Des Moines area, for me at least, with my bike, because it's unending amounts of adventure you can go on.
It's a pretty cool spot, but Cedar Rapids is awesome. Cedar Falls is great.
Yeah.
Council Bluffs, Decorah. I mean, there's so many cities in Iowa that really do well at promoting trails and just good staycations.
Yes, for sure. And that's a great segue to the next topic, which is BIKEIOWA. This is one heck of an entity. We don't have to get into, like the nuts and bolts of how it started, but basically it used to be just an event spot. For me, at least, I would go there like, wonder what's going on in this city this weekend. But now it's like a one-stop shop for all things bicycle in Iowa. So what's your take on what is BIKEIOWA?
Well, and that's kind of what it used to be. It's kind of just an online event calendar. I mean, this was around 2001. So before Facebook, before Twitter, before Instagram. So before all those social media platforms. I mean, we used to have forums and everything, but then it kind of grew into a news features, just kind of all encompassing trail grants, dream team stuff. I mean, just anything cycling related in Iowa. I'm big on bike safety. When folks get hit, we do a lot with the right of silence and just kind of getting the word out about, hey, we need some, new laws and new advocacy. Work with the Bike Coalition on that quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's just literally everything's on there. There's 20 different portals. Like there's a cyclocross portal, there's a mountain bike portal, there's a trails portal, there's actually a party portal because Iowa's special in that, where we've got so many bars and restaurants and breweries right on the trail. I think we just got our special. That's a subculture that a lot of states don't have. So it's been out there a long time, and it does take time to maintain. It's kind of got its own brand now. We're on RAGBRAI. We're at the Bike Expo with BIKEIOWA branded apparel, and that's gone well over time. And it's good to be one of the top resources in Iowa for cycling.
For sure. And almost every event you go to, you're going to see a BIKEIOWA jersey of some sort or a crew shirt. But will you tell the listeners, so like I have one of your products that I absolutely, well, actually I have many of your products, but the one product that I cannot get enough of in the wintertime are Pogi Lights. Will you explain what those are?
Yeah, so that's I'm going to call it an invention or an improvement on Pogies have been around forever. Snowmobilers, ATVs, the guys, gals riding across Alaska. I mean, that kind of Iditarod type stuff. But around here, you don't need that big of a pogey. I started to do some muddy races in Oklahoma, a rainy one in Minnesota, and it was just Trans Iowa, that where you're like in April, it's cold as heck at night, and not so cold during the daytime.
Right.
And so my hands are just getting cold or muddy or wet. So developed a product called Pogi Lights, which is it's almost like a windbreaker for your hands, and it fits on your handlebars. It fits on straight bars, drop bars, and Jones bars, the same Pogi. And it's kind of weird. One of the Russ did a review from Pathless Pedal. Saw this product, didn't even know he ordered it. All of a sudden, my sales started going ding, 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 and it's like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
And so he's got a worldwide reach, and it's just has grown. So definitely sold these Pogi Lights, all 50 states and like 31 countries. I mean, Tasmania was my probably my cool, check off. It's like, yeah, send a pair of Pogi Lights to Tasmania.
Nice.
How about that?
Well, and the best part,
that's just interesting. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the best part is, they go on your handlebars when you're cold, and they are good for wind resistance or windproof, I guess you'd say. But then you can take them off really easy, and they fold up as small as like a pair of gloves. So you can throw them in your jersey pocket, or if you have, like me, carry all your crap on your bike. I don't know. They're really cool. And this wasn't even meant to be part of the podcast, but it's like, I got to give it a plug because they are a great product.
Yeah, well, we could do the whole nother podcast on that. But I use it as my bike packing pillow. I'll stuff my jacket or some clothes in there and use it so I don't carry a pillow anymore. I've carried it as like a trash bag, like pack in, pack out. And then there's a lot of little different uses to it. I've stopped at the convenience store and grabbed food and then go camping, and I just use it as kind of like a sack.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of little things like that. But it's been fun to see who uses it and who promotes it. And I mean, it's been on the Tour Divide several times. It's been across, Italy on that Italy Divide. I mean, they've been all over the world.
Wow.
And then people are noticing that, you can pack them up really small and roll them up, roll them off, take them on, and they work. They work really great. And I use a heck out of them. If it's a cold, rainy day in July, I'll use them.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to
keep that chill away. Yeah.
I was going to say to many cyclists, I'll say it. To many cyclists, there's what's considered an off season, which is kind of the point of the podcast today, where they maybe bike less, or dare we say they hang up the bike over the winter. Like, what?
Yeah.
So I already know your answer, but what are your thoughts on what off season means?
Yeah, off season. Yeah. I mean, I think you get to the point, if you're truly into it and your life allows for it, you become a life cyclist pretty quick.
Yeah.
If you're watching the events, and I've got still a little competitive spirit in me, so to me it's like after RAGBRAI is kind of my downtime. That's when I do a lot of trail riding and just maybe some bushwhacking on the fat bike. Just not really doing a whole lot of organized after RAGBRAI, and then cyclocross season picks up, and we can go into that a little bit. But that's what September, October, November, and then early December. So you got 3 months and some weeks on that. And then fat biking's pretty fun. We've got a great contingency of fat bikers in the Des Moines area, and I think Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, they're your big fat bike states out of them all, which is crazy. That Midwest. So that takes you clear through, March, April, and then all of a sudden, then you got Iowa Winter Rock coming up. You start getting your gravel spring classics. And there's gravel rides, all winter long as well. Yeah. Some Triple D out in Dubuque, that winter endurance. You got Lake McBride, which is a fun one in the winter. But I don't know, there really isn't an off season. If you're, and I'm going to say bisexual, you ride about anything. So yeah, it's like mountain bikes, single speeds, cruisers, fat bikes, road bikes, cyclocross. And you can ride the same bike on a lot of these things, but a lot of them, if you want to be, good or really adamant at it, keep up with some of the other folks, you have a cyclocross specific bike, or you have a fat bike specific bike. And, but yeah, I would say there's pretty much no off season at this point in time, because there's always something to do here. It's crazy. I remember, back in the early 2000s where you had to wait. Oh, man, there's nothing going on till the Burr Ride. That's in February.
Oh, geez.
And all those months have to go by, and then you finally get the Burr Ride. Now there's, 50 events between now and February that, you can go to.
Yeah,
easily.
that's amazing. And, the first thought I would have would be you're going to have the right gear, because if you are not somebody who enjoys super cold or rainy or wet or all that kind of stuff, if you have the right gear, you can ride through all of it.
And the gear has gotten so much better. I mean, there's nothing better than a merino wool base layer or, a nice set of gloves or winter boots. And they come at an expense. They do. But like I said, that's what you do. Biking's still a relatively, cheap sport compared to, flying a plane or hang gliding.
Sure.
Or, even downhill skiing or SCCA car racing. I mean, there's a lot of sports out there, but it's just one we can do all year round, where a lot of them are definitely seasonal.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, you're on your way right now to a cyclocross event, and You said it was on private land. Will you describe what exactly cyclocross is?
Yeah, so I believe cyclocross started out like the late 1800s or early 1900s.
No way.
When they were the folks who raced the Tour de France, it was their off season, so they would race across fields. They'd carry their bike over streams, over logs, and they'd have these kind of like cross country courses. So think of it as like a steeplechase or a cross country race across the grass, knolls, ditches. And that's when you're carrying your bike. You're riding it when you can, but when you can't, if the hill's too steep or the ditch is too deep or there's too much water to go through. I mean, you get off and you run. There's sand traps, but it's kind of it's laps. The race I'll do tonight is 45 minutes long, and there'll probably be 30, 40 people in it. And then there's a single speed race at 10:15 tonight. Like I said, you're one of the only ones that's been at night for years, and it just adds an element of fun. They got some lights that they bring that are going to light the course, but they're saying there's some dark spots, so bring your own headlight, which that's a new one on the night cyclocross race. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, it looks like a road bike, but it's got a little bit more clearance. So let's say a gravel bike with a little bit of knobbies on it is kind of what the bikes that are going to be ran tonight.
Okay. And then how do you know the course? I mean, is it marked with like paint on the ground, or how do you know where to go?
There's plastic stakes that go into the ground. They're actually made for electric fence on farms, but they're little plastic stakes. And then you take tape, kind of like ribbon tape, and usually Shimano or Specialized or SRAM, they've got special tape that they'll give you, or you go to Menards and buy the caution tape.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Like 2 or 3 inches tall, but yeah, and then the whole course is marked that way on left and the right side, and you just follow through. And usually the lap times are anywhere between 1.25 miles to like 2.25 miles per lap.
So then, as the laps go on, I mean, it's going to be pretty obvious where the route is just from traffic.
Yep. Yeah, you'll take a few practice laps beforehand. You kind of know the course, but at night there's some, that caution tape goes one way or the other, and it is easy to become disoriented sometimes if you're right behind somebody or trying to pass or something that you can screw up and take a wrong turn and lose a few spots and try to catch up or go through the tape and have to wraps around your cassette and get that out, and yeah, it's just all part of the game. It's an adrenaline rush.
I was gonna say,
really
is this considered type 2 fun for you, or is it just fun?
It's type 2. Your heart rate is just skyrockets for 45 minutes. But once you're done, then you can have a beer and watch other people. So it's not like you're out there all day for a gravel race or ride. You go hard at it, and then you're done.
Yeah. Oh man, it sounds really fun. And adding the whole nighttime effect to it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was in Cedar Falls last week for Twisted Cross. It was gone for 2 years, and it came back. So that was at Tondro Prairie Park, I believe is how it's pronounced. And that was fun. Okay.
And then, so that's cyclocross. And then for people who, maybe RAGBRAI riders who live in California or Florida, they probably don't understand these fat bikes and why Iowans ride them in the wintertime. So do you want to give us a quick synopsis on that?
Yeah, I'm amazed at some of these coastal regions that don't have fat bikes because all the beaches and sand.
Right.
You think it'd be perfect, but it doesn't. It's not a big seller over there, just like sandals. You think California would be a great place to wear bike sandals, but Iowa's the place. Kind of that similar deal. But no, so most fat bikes, they're about a 4-inch tire. Surly just came out with a brand new one that's 6.2 inches. So it's over a 6-inch tire.
That's like a motorcycle almost.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's bigger than a lot of motorcycles, and it's got the pinion drive on it, like what is it, Doozer has. Mm-hmm. He was part of that. That's the bike he rides. So it's a really unique fat bike, but it's slow if you're gonna ride on pavement. It's really a specialty bike. But most of the fat bikes are about 4-inch tires. It's got bigger clearance. There's probably 10, 15 brands that make a decent fat bike, and it's like having your own Jeep. You're like, who cares about that crack in the road? Who cares? Hey, I'm going to go down in that ditch and get up on the other side of the trail. And once you start doing some of the kind of that bushwhacking or riding on the shoreline or a really bumpy trail or gravel road, you just when it takes all the chatter, the air in the tires take all the chatter off your body. Yeah. It's a little bit more to pedal, but out there overall, it really is pretty darn comfortable once you get used to it.
I feel like a kid when I'm on a fat bike, and I think it's based on what you just described, where I'm like, oh, curb, okay, I'll just ride over it. Or when it's actually snowy, it just makes for a really fun experience, and you get to go on your bike where you wouldn't normally be able to go.
Yep. That's why I like riding the shoreline, and most of the time it's rideable. But there's no other bike that can ride out there. Even a mountain bike with big tires, you can make it some of it, but the sand and the rocks and it helps your bike skills too. It really, all those little firing muscles left and right, trying to keep the balance as you're going through sand or pushing. I think that just strengthens your whole core and your overall bike handling skills.
Yeah. Well, and this may answer the next question that you just answered it yourself, but can you give us a few ways that you stay in, I'm putting this in quote, bike shape when the weather changes?
It's pretty darn easy to sit down and watch a few movies with a bag of Cheetos, isn't it? Once it starts snowing or raining, I'm going to say I'm not much of an indoor rider. I do here and there, but with the upcoming like Zwift and all the other indoor trainers, that is really almost got to be like a video game for a lot of folks.
Right.
And you can tell since that started becoming popular, like the spring classics used to be in February, March, and April. And that was a do tell on how good a shape did you stay in over the winter. Well, now folks are coming out of the winter in better shape than they went than the end of the season, just because they train so much inside. Roller races used to be popular at the different bike shops and malls where they used to have roller races, and you used to go for like 2 to 5 minutes. And Greg Harper used to put on a big series, Harper Cycle, and Des Moines Cycle Club used to put on a bunch of those old roller racers. But then as technology became better, now you got Zwift and you got all those races where you could race somebody across the world, like virtually on screen, or see a real, like you're going to Panama. You can see, a Panamanian highway as you're riding along. They've got it all hooked up that way. And it's just, it keeps you engaged. So that's some of the ways. I mean, I got some weights at home. I kind of do that, try to keep the core going. I'll do some trail runs. I got some, spikes on my shoes, if it's icy, that kind of stuff, go out. Even just a good walk when it's really cold. You get so much, there's so much condensation. It just keeps you going.
Yeah, I would say.
But a lot of it's outdoor fat biking is what it is for me.
Yeah. And just like you said, don't let the couch suck you in.
Yeah. And knowing, I mean, it's so much funner to ride bike when you're in a little bit of shape. It really sucks when you're, not in shape, trying to keep up with folks. And, the fun goes away pretty fast.
That is for sure. And I bet there's people listening who, if they maybe didn't have their fitness in tip-top shape when they were doing all the hills of RAGBRAI, they are probably nodding their heads right now.
Yeah.
Super quick, back to cyclocross. You said that there are portions of cyclocross where you have to hike a bike, where you're actually physically carrying your bike. And I believe you made a second invention that helps hike a bike. Do you want to talk about that?
There we go. Yeah. So it's called the Bandito sling. And it's a similar to Poggy Lights, but it's a strap that you can carry your bike like on a gravel road. And there's not a whole lot of races outside Iowa. There's some in Michigan, the Crusher, Margie Jessic, all those outside Iowa. But it really started with Trans Iowa and then Iowa Wind and Rock, where you might have to hike a bike for 1 to 5 miles, depending on how muddy a level B road is. And once you start trying to hold your bike over, because if you push it, it's just going to get, your tires are going to get all muddy,
right.
And Iowa mud sticks to your tires. So all of a sudden your 35-pound loaded bike is like a 55-pound loaded bike. And then your tires just lock up. So you really have to carry it. So after me doing that for several years, it's like I developed kind of like a bungee strap, and then I used another strap, and then it's like, all right, we brought Poggy Lights to life. Let's bring this other product to life. And it's the lightest one out there, and it'll hold your bike at different levels, different heights of folks, really short, really tall works. But it's it's like $20 for this strap and a little bag, and it's called the Bandito sling. And it's kind of crazy on how it's went well. And people don't know it. If you've never been in a muddy, have to hike your bike in the mud or anything like that, you're like, I don't need that. But the time you do, or the time somebody passes you as you are, trying to hold your bike and get all the mud off of it, and somebody goes walking right by you, eating a candy bar or something like that. And, $20 ain't a bad deal.
Yeah, so. $20 would have saved me about $600 when I got stuck in that peanut butter mud before we went to the RAGBRAI inspection ride, and it cost me a lot of money to get my bike fixed because I tried to ride through it.
I remember that. I remember those. Oh, new parts. All right.
Yeah. So you should. Yeah. I don't think you had invented it yet at that point, but yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. But we was using it for a while, and it's like, why not? Let's do it. And I came up with a cool. My buddy Tyler. They got a picture of him like walking with it, and it was just a perfect angle, and that became the logo for this Bandito sling. And it was just kind of neat how it came to fruition.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm guessing in cyclocross, you may or may not be doing a little bit of hike a bike, but you're doing that tonight and tomorrow. But what's next on the calendar?
So next on the calendar is probably, there's a cyclocross race every week, but the thing I've been doing is the Des Moines Marathon bicycle course support. I've been doing that since day one, so it'll be the 22nd year of me coordinating the bicycle course support, about 60 to 70 cyclists between the full marathon and the half marathon. We bust out in a lead group, lead packs, mid packs, back of the pack, lead cyclists, tail end. So we split cyclists up and we ride with the athletes on the marathon. And if there's any cars that get on route, they lose their, signs blow over, rogue runners. We're just the eyes and ears of the marathon, and get as many athletes into the finish line as we can. Where's the next restroom? What mile are we at? How can I get there? Oh, I got a sprained ankle. So it's anywhere from first aid to directional to course safety. So that's my next thing, and takes a little bit of time to get planned and get ready. There's a lot of new things on the course this year, and so we got to go pre-ride that and just kind of, I think it adds like 22 new intersections in kind of a busy area. So that's going to be kind of a hot spot for us, and kind of go figure all that out. But that's next on my list, and that's October 20th.
Yeah, and that's a lot of coordination when you've got that many, of course, that many athletes running, but all those other cyclists who are there to help.
I think there's 4,000 people between the half marathon and the full. So there's plenty of people out there that day.
Wow. Well, if people want to know more about Bike Iowa, whether they want to find out about events in Iowa or buy merchandise or just see happenings, where do they go?
Yeah, BIKEIOWA.com.
So
is
the
website. Same for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
All right.
It's just Bike Iowa.
Well,
we're live.
Well, Scott, we're going to be cheering you on at the cyclocross event, although I won't be there in the dark. I'll be sleeping, but have a blast. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks as always, Murph. Good chatting.
You bet.
Thanks for tuning in to the Just Go Bike podcast. Murph and AP will be back next week. In the meantime, check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And if you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe you have a topic in mind, email them at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. Until next time,
Just go bike!
Theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.